My boyfriend James came out of the kitchen holding a hot, steaming pie.
"Here, babe,"
he said.
"I made this especially for you."
I cringed inside. Not another pie to get through. You see, my boyfriend James had this weird obsession with making pies, and I had to pretend they were good when actually they tasted disgusting. "Oh, great," I said with fake enthusiasm. I bit into the pie, but this one tasted even worse than usual. I'd never tasted anything so bad in all my life. I didn't know how I was going to finish it. I was on my second bite of the pie when the pain in my stomach started. I was bent over double. The pain was unbearable. I looked at James and cried, "Help me, James!" But James just stood there watching as I collapsed on the floor. But before I go on, make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell, or you might end up having to eat one of James's disgusting pies. I woke up and couldn't understand where I was. I could hear people talking and could make out what looked like a nurse standing beside me. "Where am I?" I asked. "It's okay, darling. You're going to be fine," a voice said. I looked around and saw Mom and Dad standing there. "What happened?" I asked. Mom and Dad told me that they had tried to call me, but I hadn't answered my phone. After a while, they began to get worried, so they went over to my apartment. They had found me lying on the floor unconscious. "Was James with me?" I asked.
"No, James was nowhere to be seen,"
said Dad.
"In fact, we haven't seen him for days."
The doctors came in and told me that the pie I had eaten had got some poison in it. "What?" I said. "That's crazy! How could there be poison in it? My boyfriend James made that pie for me." The doctor looked strangely at my parents. "I'm gonna call James now," I said. "There will be a good explanation, I'm sure." I called James, but no one answered. That's strange, I thought. Why would James just abandon me? "I'll call him again later," I said to Mom and Dad. "He's probably just busy at work now." "Okay," said Mom. "We'll let you get some sleep now." Mom and Dad left the hospital, and I tried to get to sleep, but I just laid there tossing and turning. I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. Suddenly, I heard someone moving in my room. I could make out the shadow of someone crawling across the floor. As the light from the window shone on him, I saw it was James. "James," I said, "is that you?"
"How can you still be alive?"
he said.
"That poison should have killed you."
"What are you talking about? Did you try to poison me on purpose?"
"Yes, I did."
"Why would you do that to me? I thought you loved me." His face contorted with rage. I had never seen James look that way before.
"I did it because you ruined my life,"
he said. "What?" I cried. Suddenly, James lunged at me as if he was about to kill me. I didn't know what to do. I looked around and saw the call button beside my bed. I reached out and pressed it. A few seconds later, the doctors came running into my room. They grabbed hold of James and pulled him off of me. They pushed James into the bathroom and locked the door. "Wait here," said one of the doctors. "I'm going to call the police." When the police arrived, the doctors told them what James had done. They arrested him and took him to the police station. A few minutes later, Mom and Dad came running into my room.
"The doctor called us and told us to come back,"
said Dad.
"What happened?"
"James was here," I said, sobbing. "He tried to kill me."
"Don't worry, you're safe now," said Dad. "The police have got him and he's locked up."
Then the door opened and the doctor came in looking worried. "The police have just called to warn you," he said. On the way to the police station, James jumped out of the car and escaped. I looked at my parents. I was so scared.
"Don't worry, darling,"
said Dad.
"We'll protect you."
The following day, I was able to leave the hospital. Mom and Dad drove me to my apartment.
"You just stay away from James now,"
said Dad. "We'll be back first thing in the morning," said Mom. "But if you need anything tonight, just call us." "I will," I said. The first few weeks after I got out of the hospital, I was a nervous wreck. Every little noise I heard, I was convinced it was James coming to try to kill me again. I didn't want to leave my apartment in case I bumped into him. The only thing I went out for was to get shopping from the supermarket, and even that was a traumatic experience. I was in the fruit and vegetable aisle when I suddenly froze. There, standing in front of me, was James. I didn't know what to do, so I panicked. I tried to get out of there, but the exit was right in front of James. I tried to run past him, and as I did, I pulled out my pepper spray and sprayed him full in the face. But as he turned to me in shock, I realized that it wasn't James after all. It was just some innocent guy doing his shopping. The store supervisor came running over to us. "What's going on?" he asked.
She just sprayed me with pepper spray for no reason, the man cried out in pain.
Why did you do that? He asked me. I told him all about how James had tried to kill me.
He looked exactly like James from behind, I said. I'm so sorry for spraying you. I was just scared for my life.
Luckily for me, the man was a kind man, and he felt sorry for me.
It's okay, I won't press any charges, he told the supervisor. Just don't spray me if you ever see me again, okay?
I won't, I promise, I told him.
I can't keep on living like this, I thought.
That evening, I was sitting on the couch trying to watch TV, but I couldn't stop thinking about James. Our relationship had been so good. We never argued. Everyone said we were perfect for each other. I couldn't believe he would throw it all away. I couldn't understand what had gone wrong. That's when I made up my mind. I was going to go and confront him. I was scared to be near him again, but I needed to find out why he wanted me dead. The problem was I had no idea where he was. The police had told me they had searched his house and been to where he worked, but he was nowhere to be seen. Where could he be? That's when I remembered the little cottage in the woods. We used to go there in the summer. I wonder if he would be hiding there, I thought. I decided I would go and see. I was nervous as I walked through the woods towards the cottage. It was dark and I could hardly see in front of me. Something moved in the trees, but it was just a bird. As I approached the cottage, I could see a light on in the window. Someone was definitely there. I was sure it had to be James. I opened the door and crept inside. As I went through the kitchen, I grabbed hold of a saucepan. If James lunges at me again, then I'm going to hit him over the head with his pan, I thought. James was sitting in the chair watching TV. When he noticed me, he jumped up. James, I just want to talk to you, I blurted out quickly. I just want to know why you tried to kill me. James hesitated, but then he finally spoke up.
Because I hate you. You stole everything I owned and ruined my life, he screamed.
What are you talking about? I asked. I've never stolen anything from you. In fact, I've never stolen anything from anyone.
Yes, you did, he went on. And I've got the evidence.
What evidence?
I've got CCTV footage of you breaking into my house.
He pulled out his phone and showed me a video. On the video was a girl that looked just like me. She was taking everything out of his house and putting it into a van. It's true, it looks like me, I said in shock. But I promise you, I didn't do that. You have to believe me.
Well, if it wasn't you, who was it then?
I've no idea, but let's show the video to my parents. Maybe they will be able to help.
I know you're just trying to get me arrested again,
said James suspiciously.
The police will probably be waiting for me when I get there.
I swear I won't let them tell the police, I said. I love you, James. I don't want anything to happen to you. Finally, James agreed to go to my parents' house. When we got there, Mom and Dad looked shocked to see me with James.
What's he doing here? Asked Dad. I thought we told you to stay away from him.
It's okay. He's not going to hurt me, I said. We just want you to take a look at a video that James has. We showed my parents the video on his phone. When the video finished, my mom and dad looked at each other strangely. I think we might know who that is, said Mom.
That's Kara,
said Dad. Who is Kara? I asked.
You'd better sit down and we will explain everything, said Dad. We're about to tell you something we should have told you a long time ago.
My parents explained to me that when I was born, Mom had actually had twins. They didn't know Mom was expecting twins, so it was a bit of a shock.
We didn't have enough money to look after 2 children, said Dad, so we put Kara up for adoption.
The last we heard, she had been adopted, but we didn't know where she was living, said Mom. I was so shocked. I looked at James to see what he was thinking.
Oh, babe, I'm so sorry, he said. I can't believe I ever doubted you. I should have known you would never steal anything from me. How can you ever forgive me?
I didn't know what to think about James, but I knew one thing for certain. I needed to find my twin sister. I looked at Mom and Dad. We need to find Kara and find out why she is robbing people's houses, I said. My parents called the agency that had organized the adoption and told them that they needed the address where Kara was living. At first they were reluctant to give it, but after Dad told them it was a life or death situation, they finally gave him the address. The 4 of us got into Dad's car and drove straight there. As I looked around me, I couldn't believe where my twin was living. It was a dead-end neighborhood. Only the poorest people lived there. Homeless people were sleeping in shop doorways. Eventually, we pulled up in front of a filthy, dilapidated house. Mom, Dad, and James went ahead of me and knocked on the door. The door opened and Kara stood there looking out. "Who are you? What do you want?" she shouted. "Get out of here or I'll beat you up." I stepped out from behind my parents. Kara looked at me and gasped. She looked shocked to be looking at her identical self. As I stepped towards her, she suddenly fainted and fell on the floor. We didn't know what to do. My twin sister was lying on the ground. It was surreal for me to see an exact copy of myself there. Dad picked her up and carried her into the house. He laid her down on the couch and I started fanning her face. Slowly, she began to open her eyes. She looked at me. "I don't understand," she said. "Who are you?" I explained to her that I was her twin sister, that she had been adopted as a baby.
"We didn't know you were living in such terrible conditions,"
said Mum. "But why did you come looking for me?" asked Kara. I looked at James. Would he tell her that she had stolen from him? James smiled at me.
"It's okay,"
he said.
"I think this might have been just a silly mistake. I'm just happy you two have found each other now."
Well, if he can forgive Kara for stealing from him, the least I can do is forgive him for trying to poison me, I thought. "I think you're right, James," I said. "It's all just been a silly mistake." I turned to my parents. "What's going to happen to Kara now?" I asked.
"Don't worry, Kara,"
said Mum.
"You're not going to live here a moment longer. You are coming home with your real family."
It didn't take long to arrange for Kara to come and live with us. Once Dad had notified the Child Protection Services about Kara's living conditions, they soon agreed to let her leave her adopted family. Who would have thought that eating one slice of pie could change my life so dramatically?